From Julius and Alf. We're reading The Ice Monster from Julian.
From what now?
From Julian's.
David Williams.
Yeah.
We both got Mozzies.
Yeah, this one is Big Moz.
As you can see, they're exactly the same. They are identical twins.
Yep.
His was Junior, mine's was Senior.
A mice crossing Monty, who is a dragon. And he likes lights.
Right.
Okay, that's over with.
Are we ready?
Yeah. We
Right.
are reading Julius and Alfred.
We're reading David Williams, The Ice Monster.
No, we are reading.
And we're in
Daily
chapter 71, something to
Smothering to death. Smothering to death. I am desperately trying to read the rest of this before the end of term.
What's smothering to
Yeah.
death?
Smothering.
Smothering.
Well, you'll see. It can mean suffocating or like you can smother someone in love.
I'm not
Like,
going to
too-
think of that way.
Whatever you do, it's generally too much.
I don't.
Like if you sit in a bouncy castle and it overflows, you get suffocated.
Yeah.
Kind of.
Kia.
Right, should we move on?
Yeah, let's move on.
Right, are we going to be quiet so I can concentrate on what I'm doing? Because if you're not quiet, you will have to go to bed.
But Mum, can I just kill one bad guy? Kia.
Right, he's killed one bad guy. Right. Everybody's sitting comfortably, so I'll begin. Wooly led the three humans for many more miles across the ice. Do you remember what was happening? They'd got off the...
Oh, they've just completely blew the Lady Buckshot.
Yeah, and then they got to the ice.
And then they got to the ice and then there was this weird thing.
Yeah, they're trying to find somewhere for Wooly to live, aren't they?
And then...
So we're ready. We're not just keep talking. Wooly led the three humans for many more miles across the ice. North, north, north. As night fell, excuse me, the entire sky lit up red, green and purple. Wow, this is beautiful, said Elsie as she stopped still and looked up in wonder. The Northern Lights, they're called, replied Titch. You can only see them if you travel really far north. Well, I went to Yorkshire to visit my Aunt Maud and I never saw them, said Dotty. Titch shook his head. I meant really far north. As far as I'm concerned, Yorkshire is really far north. It took me hours on the train. Now, where is that mammoth taking us? North, replied Elsie. North, north, north. Are there going to be any shops? Asked Dotty. I don't think so, said Titch. I don't need nothing fancy, just a cup of tea and some sandwiches and some cakes. No, just more ice. Shame, said Dotty. I'm getting rather peckish. They climbed to the top of the tall snowdrift and looked down into a valley. How much longer? Moaned Dotty. Hooted Wooly. She pointed ahead with her trunk before galloping down the drift. Something tells me we're nearly there, replied the girl as she chased after her friend. Joined in Elsie. Nearly where? Asked Dotty. I don't know, replied Titch. He took her hand and led her down the drift. Ahead, Elsie could see something was sticking out of the snow. On closer inspection, she realised it was a flag, a British flag. Next to it were a series of pegs.
Whoa, what's going on now?
Making out a large rectangular shape in the ice, it almost looked like a grave. This must be where they found Wooly, exclaimed Elsie. Hooted the mammoth, miming digging with her foot. Why the blazes has the mammoth brought us all the way here? Grumbled Dotty. Trust me, there'll be a reason, Dotty. Trust me, replied the girl. As if on cue, the coloured lights that were shooting across the sky descended to the ground. The wind whipped up the snow, and soon it swirled all around them. The four were in the centre of a spiralling snowstorm. It soon became impossible for Elsie, Dotty and Titch to keep their eyes open and they could hardly breathe. All they could do was huddle close to the mammoth in fear. "This is the end, Dotty," spluttered Titch as the snow swirled into his mouth. "I need to tell you that I—" "Tell me what?" asked the lady. "If you would just let me finish." "Wooly wouldn't have brought us here to die," said Elsie. "There must be a good reason." The mammoth wrapped her trunk around the girl. She cried. "Hold me close," said Elsie, "please." This felt like the end. The storm moved in. The blizzard was smothering them. They could no longer see or feel or hear. Elsie just managed to prise her eyes open for a moment. Huge shapes were appearing in the snowstorm. Chapter 72. A Perfect Circle. A dozen figures were emerging from the storm, tall and wide as ships. Dotty and Titch struggled to open their eyes. When they did, the most magical sight greeted them. A herd of mammoths.
They're all mammoths.
Yep.
Let's see.
Oh my gosh.
"Oh, wouldn't like to have to clean up after all that lot," mused Dotty. "Is this real?" asked Titch. "I don't know," replied Elsie, "but it's beautiful." Cried Wooly. As if by magic, the snowstorm moved outwards from where the gang of four were huddled. They found themselves standing in a perfect circle of calm as a wall of swirling snow surrounded them. Slowly, Wooly broke away from the humans and approached the herd. One of the mammoths stepped forward and reached out its trunk. Wooly did the same, and the two trunks curled around each other in the most loving way. All the other mammoths lifted up their trunks and let out a chorus of woo. Teardrops ran down Elsie's face. They were happy tears. They were sad tears. Happy because she knew her friend was finally home. Sad because she knew this was goodbye. Wooly turned round and with her trunk beckoned Elsie over. Woo! The girl took a deep breath and paced through the deep snow. Wooly wrapped her trunk round her friend and pushed her close to the much bigger mammoth in front of them. Elsie was scared at first, but the giant mammoth wrapped her trunk lovingly round the girl. The three of them embraced. Immediately the girl knew exactly who this was. "Wooly, it's so great to finally meet your ma," said Elsie, choking back tears. Both animals nodded their heads and let out tender sighs. "Woo!" sounded the larger animal behind them. It was time to go. The herd turned to leave. The mother mammoth gently pushed her offspring towards the girl. There was just time for one last embrace. Elsie buried her head in her friend's fur and wrapped her arms around her. In return, Wooly licked the girl's face with her rough tongue. It was a sweet, if slobbery kiss. Elsie whispered into the mammoth's ear, "I love you, Wooly. I'm never going to forget you. You won't ever forget me, will you?" Wooly sighed. Replied Elsie. The girl reached out a hand and stroked Wooly's fur as the animal started to move away. This was the very last touch. Elsie watched as one by one the herd faded into a wall of snow. Wooly looked back one last time and waved with her trunk, and then she too disappeared. Tears rolled down Elsie's face again as Dotty and Titch put their arms around the girl and held her tight. The storm passed as quickly as it had appeared, leaving all three alone on the Arctic wasteland. Part 4.
Part 4 said part 1 is massive, part 2 is small, part 3 is tiny, and part 4 is massive.
Home. Chapter 73. Headlines across the world.
Oh my gosh. Evil? Who's evil?
Nobody's evil.
It says evil.
Oh, evil professor behind bars. If the long sail back to London was sombre, the journey up the Thames was anything but. All of London turned out to watch HMS Victory. which had then seen off the entire British naval fleet make its way along the river. The news of the mammoth's adventures had made the headlines all across the world. Folks lined up banks to wave and cheer, and this lifted Elsie's mood a little. During the long voyage, the girl missed her friend terribly. She had grown accustomed to the mammoth's smell and sound and touch. She yearned for her trunk to be wrapped around her again. It was like a part of her was missing. A month or more had gone by since they'd left London. The ice over the Thames had melted away, and HMS Victory made fast progress towards the centre of London. Despite seeing the obvious delight of the crowds, all on board were nervous as the ship came into dock. A pack of policemen, led by Commissioner Barker, of course, was waiting on the riverbank for them. "Don't you worry, officers. We only, Don't you worry, officers. We only, borrowed the Victory. Looking for a quick spin?" the Admiral called over. Barker's face soured. His lip quivered in barely disguised rage, causing his tiny moustache to twitch. "Our orders are to take you straight to Buckingham Palace," he announced. "Her Majesty the Queen wants a word with you." The pensioners all gulped. By the sound of it, they were all in deep, deep trouble. Chapter 74, A Flight of Carriages. A fleet of horse-drawn carriages raced across London to Buckingham Palace. Elsie sat between Dotty and Titch in the first one. Both grown-ups looked sick with nerves. Dotty pulled out a handkerchief and spat on it. "Elsie, I just need to give you a quick wash." She then proceeded to furiously polish the girl's face. "Get off me!" yelled Elsie. "You're meeting the Queen. When was the last time you had a bath?" "A what?" "That's what I thought." A fleet of carriages passed through the tall iron gates into the grounds of Buckingham Palace. Elsie and Dotty and Titch all pressed their faces up against the window to get a better look. "Wow!" exclaimed the girl. "It's magnificent," added Titch. "It could be fit for royalty," remarked Dotty. "It is fit for royalty," said Titch. "The royals live here." "They must have come from a very rich family," observed the lady. The carriage stopped outside the entrance to the palace itself. A footman opened the carriage door, and the three stepped out onto the red carpet. All the old soldiers put on their tricorn hats and white gloves and straightened their scarlet coats. They formed a neat line and marched into Buckingham Palace. Elsie's eyes were dazzled by the riches. Never in her wildest dreams could she have believed that anybody lived like this. Golden marble and velvet spread across every space. Oil paintings, sculptures and ornaments lined the hallways. She wanted to stop and marvel at every last one, but there wasn't time. Her Majesty the Queen was waiting. "Needs a good dust," remarked Dotty. "I've counted 3 cobwebs." "Shush!" shushed Titch. Eventually, a tall pair of wooden doors was opened by the Queen's attendant, Abdul. "Her Majesty the Queen has been expecting you," he announced. At the far end of the room was a little old lady, sitting alone in her chair with a blanket over her knees. Her skin was white as snow, her dress was black, and her white hair crouched on top of her head in a tidy bun. It was Queen Victoria. Unsmiling, she looked at Elsie straight in the eye. "So, you must be the urchin that stole my mammoth." We're going to leave it there because I'm pretty sure I'm not going to get much further without being ridiculously distracted. Hopefully we'll get the last bit done in one go next time.
Yeah, that'll be like 45 minutes.
No, it will be 1 minute extra long. 1 minute.
If we did a chapter every time, we would have done 74 chapters or
I know, but some of the chapters
videos.
are like a minute and a half long. So.
I know, but
Right, thanks very much for listening, and we're getting very near the end now, so I hope you enjoyed it. Goodbye!